Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new Doctor Who YouTube video. So I am aware I do have a usual upload schedule of uploading twice a week on Wednesdays and Saturdays. However, I was delayed a bit last Saturday, so instead it's being released on Tuesday today, and tomorrow I'm going to be releasing another video which will be, back to the normal video schedule. So yes, I do apologise for that absence, but yes, I am back with a brand new video series I've been planning. I did say in my channel update for the end of 2020, like what's going to come in 2021, that I do loads of unique video series. This is one of them, and it's going to be basically writers of Who. So it's going to be just looking at the different, most prolific writers of Doctor Who, and just having a look at each of their stories and seeing, are they a good writer? Are they not? Could they become a new showrunner if they're a new Who? Things like that. And today I'm going to be looking at Mark Gatiss, a writer for Doctor Who, who's been writing for it since basically the beginning of New Who. He's done episodes in most seasons, and yes, I'm just going to be looking at his story, saying what I like and don't like about each of them, and feel free to comment on your opinions of him as a writer in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and like if you enjoy my bi-weekly content. So without further ado, let's get into this video. I hope you enjoy. So first of all, we have The Unquiet Dead in Series 1, which was broadcast in 2005. This is the third story of New Who, and has the 9th Doctor and Rose basically go back to 19th century Cardiff, and overall it's an interesting story. I used to really not like this, and when I first started watching New Who I thought, this isn't very good, should I continue watching? And I did, and what got me hooked was actually the story Dalek, which is episode 6. Anyway, this is actually quite a good story, rewatching it. I've watched New Who a total of 3 times now, and I've got to say I do quite like this story. It's just like a fun, interesting ghost story, and I quite like how the villains, they're not actually completely villains, they're not just being evil, which I quite like it. I feared that it'd just be very standard, normal villains of the week who were evil just for being the sake of evil, when I first started watching this, but no, this is quite an interesting concept, trying to get back to their own world by using human hosts, and I quite like it. It's also set at Christmas, even though it wasn't broadcast then, strangely enough, and I consider this Christopher Eccleston's Christmas special, since he didn't actually get one. The first one was Christmas Invasion, which was the 10th Doctor's first episode, so I kind of consider this one the 9th Doctor's episode. Anyway, this has some really great character moments from the 9th Doctor and Rose, and the writing from Mark Gatiss in this one is, I've got to say, very good. I'd give this probably, if I'm rounding to the nearest, half a point, I'd probably say 8 out of 10. It's a solid story, not the best, but it's pretty good. Next up we have a Series 2 story, The Idiot's Lantern. This has the 10th Doctor and Rose, and is one of the least liked stories in Series 2. I think Love and Monsters, Fear Her, and The Idiot's Lantern are the 3 most hated episodes in Series 2, and I agree, this isn't very good. I don't think Mark Gatiss did a great job with writing this story. Rose is incredibly annoying in this. She's hardly even in it, but in the parts she's in it, she's so annoying and clingy to the 10th Doctor, it really bugs me in this one. Anyway, yeah, the Wire isn't a very menacing villain, and they, shamelessly try to recreate the 4th Doctor's regeneration scene in Logopolis by doing the radio tower, him almost falling off, and I just didn't really like the story. It just didn't flow well, and it was just had a generally clunky, weirdly paced plot, and yeah, I really didn't like this. Even the 10th Doctor in this I don't think is written very well. Sorry Mark Gatiss, I'd probably give this one a 5.5 out of 10. Next up, we are skipping straight ahead to a Series 5 story. I don't know why he didn't write any stories for Series 3 and 4, maybe his contract was up or something, I don't really know. Anyway, this has the 11th Doctor and Amy go to war-torn Britain in 1942, I think it is, maybe 1, I'm not too sure. Anyway, this story is known for being not a very good story in Series 5, and while I will admit it's definitely in the bottom half of stories, I think people, bash this one a bit harshly. It's quite a good story. Most people hate these new designs, the new paradigm Daleks. I like them. I really like them. I think they look pretty cool. They are a bit cheesy, yes, but I mean, it's a Doctor Who we're talking about, you know, it's going to be. And yeah, it has just some very silly fight scenes, like all the Spitfires in space. It's a bit strange, but overall, I just have a soft spot for this story. I just really like it. It's just very fun and interesting, and I've got to say, he wrote this one very well. There's some great character moments from the Doctor and Amy, and it does actually provide quite a lot of setup for the finale, as well as Series 6's finale, with lots of the elements in it. Anyway, yes, this is, you know, quite a good story actually, and I probably give this another, probably an 8.5 out of 10. This is a very good series, so although it's in the bottom half of the series, it's still pretty good. Next up we have Night Terrors from Series 6, Section 2, that is. There's 2 parts of Series 6. Anyway, Night Terrors is not a very good story in my opinion. It's probably the worst in Series 6. Lots of people quite like this story, and I only recently discovered that, so I thought it was generally received as not a very good episode, but yeah, this really isn't very good. The visuals aren't amazing. I know that's not Mark Gatiss's fault, but yeah, in general, I don't really like watching this story. Usually I actually skip it in a rewatch, which, yeah, I don't usually do, but I actually skipped this the 3rd time. But I remember on the 1st and 2nd times watching this story, yeah, it's not amazing. The villains are not menacing at all. It's one of those standard stories where kind of, you know, love and friendship saves the day, and yeah, I really don't like it when it does that. This is just very poor writing from Mark Gatiss, I've got to say, and I'd probably give this a 6.5 out of 10 maybe, if I'm being generous. But yeah, not very good. Okay, next up we have Cold War, a story from Series 7, Part 2. This is actually, you know, sort of in the final stretch of the 11th Doctor's final episodes, and I used to not really like this. On the first watch, then I didn't really like it. On the second watch, I loved it, and now I'm kind of in between. I'd probably give this like a 7 out of 10, because it does have some pretty interesting elements, like the Ice Warrior being frozen. I love the new Ice Warrior design, by the way. The classic Who design I didn't really like, except in the Seeds of Death. I loved that design. Anyway, the 11th Doctor and Clara are written okay. They don't really get any development as such, but this is a very plot-centered story, and in that sense, it's very good. It really is such a good story in the plot sense, but the characters don't really get any development, and I don't know, while the plot is quite good and fast-paced, it doesn't really lead anywhere, and it's quite lazy writing at the end, just him being taken off by a spaceship, and that's it. So I've got to say, this was definitely a filler story, but it was okay writing from Mark Gatiss, but yeah, definitely not his best. I'd give this a 7. Next up we have The Crimson Horror from 2013, another story which is, actually, I think it's only a couple of episodes after Cold War. It's okay. I'm very torn on the story, because I used to hate it, and now I quite like it, actually. I think, they definitely overuse the Victorian setting in loads of stories which I don't really like. However, this one is okay. The Paternoster gang are very good. Strax is amazing as always. The others are just kind of there, but Strax just completely steals the show in terms of the Paternoster gang. I do quite like how the story is partially Doctor-like. Like, the Doctor doesn't appear until a good, you know, like 15 minutes into the story, which I find a bit strange, but it works surprisingly well, actually. The villain, like with the red parasite thingy, isn't very good, to be honest. I think they just kind of had a villain for the sake of having a villain, if you know what I mean. And the plot is okay. Again, though, it doesn't really lead to anywhere. It's just kind of the villain's defeated, that's it. You know, there's no, like, plot twists or surprises or anything. And that's why I'd probably give this a 7 out of 10. Next up, Robot of Sherwood from Series 8. This one, I never used to know that this was written by Mark Gatiss. I thought this was someone else completely, because it doesn't really feel like one of his stories. He usually does, you know, primarily historicals, which I suppose this is a historical, but it's still got lots of non-historical elements in a sense. But yeah, this is actually quite a good story. I really like this. I do quite like stories where they kind of take something everyone's seen before and turn it into sci-fi, kind of like Mummy on the Orient Express, Listen to an extent, Sleep No More, which I'll get to that later actually. But yeah, Robot of Sherwood is it's pretty good. There's lots of development from Clara and the 12th Doctor, who are both pretty good in this story. But yeah, again, it's just kind of, yeah, the plot doesn't really lead anywhere in that sense. I think lots of Mark Gatiss' stories are like that. However, the writing is okay. He does some pretty good characters, and it's very funny actually. So I've got to, you know, condemn him for Is it condemned? I don't really know. I've got to congratulate Gatiss for doing such a funny story. It's pretty good. I'd probably give this an 8 out of 10. Next up, we have Sleep No More from 2015. This had so much potential and completely failed. The villain is really stupid, being made of eye gunk, and the like sleep stuff being cameras. That's really strange. But you know, it's quite ambitious, being in the term of like video recordings being displayed, and then there's this guy who gets like eaten at the end. It's really, really weird. However, it does have lots of potential, but it just completely fails to deliver. The plot is all over the place and not very good. The characters are completely bland in this. Even the 12th Doctor, who is amazing usually, really isn't that great, and it was just really underwhelming. So honestly, this is one of the worst stories in New Who in my opinion. 4.5 out of 10. This is actually my least favourite story in New Who ever. Next up, we have Empress of Mars from 2017. This was in Series 10, and I've got to say, this is okay. I remember liking it quite a bit. You know, I didn't hate it, but it really isn't very memorable. I honestly can't remember that much about this story. I should have rewatched it before this recording, to be honest. But yeah, the Ice Warrior design is okay. It's updated slightly from Cold War, you know, the episode I mentioned earlier. And his second Ice Warrior story is probably on par with the first. The plot, again, doesn't really lead anywhere. It's really strange how there's, like, Victorian colonists on Mars. I still don't really understand that much. And the Ice Warriors, yeah, they're okay. I do quite like the Ice Warrior Empress. She's pretty cool in this. But the villain, it does seem like a filler story, to be honest. However, we do get lots of character development from the 12th Doctor, Bill, Nardole, and Missy, where she, you know, finally begins to sort of gain her redemption. And yeah, so yeah, it's a pretty good story, and I'd probably give this an 8.5 out of 10. However, it's still, you know, not very memorable. I can't really remember much about the actual plot of this, other than it's Ice Warriors on Mars and Missy gets some redemption. So there we go. I really hope you enjoyed this this video. I tried to do something unique, so let me know what you thought of this video down in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. Tomorrow I'm going to be releasing another video, which is What If Doctor Who Was Never Cancelled Part 3, which is a continuation of that series I've been doing since around November. So yes, go and check that out when it's released tomorrow, probably sometime around 6 PM. I'm not really certain on what times I should release my videos, but anyway, let me know what you thought of this video, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.